Hey everybody, I'm ex-TV producer Jennifer Moore, and we are on another episode of ex-TV Newsers. And with me in this episode is a lady I was recently acquainted with, but like everyone in the TV world I seem to know, has at one point worked at WFTS, which I think is probably the Kevin Bacon of TV news. I'm just going to go out there and label it now. But I'm with Dawn Ennis, and Dawn has worked in many TV newsrooms and many different roles wearing different hats. So we are calling her ex-TV journalist because she's just had so many jobs in TV news, lots of insight. So Dawn, thank you so much for being here and for talking about your experience working in newsrooms.
I'm really excited to be part of your show. Thank you for inviting me.
No, thank you. All right, so let's go down the list. I know this might take a bit, but what jobs have you held in TV stations or TV networks?
Wow. So I started in my sophomore year of college on a program that predated the Larry King Live show. It was called Freeman Reports. And I had an internship there. And after a month, they actually offered me a job while I was still in college. I was the Vidafont operator, the person who types the little words on the screen. Calling from Albuquerque, that kind of thing. And I learned how to spell Albuquerque without looking it up.
That's a hard one. And I always have to copy and paste it because I'm like, I don't want to mess it up.
After college, I got a job at CNN as a production assistant, then as a writer. And then one of my best friends in the whole world decided to leave TV news to go study journalism, to become a professor of journalism. And I got his job as the assignment editor. And I was basically in charge of the Northeast for CNN at night. From there, I went to the weekends. I was the weekend assignment manager. After 5 years at CNN, I sort of started feeling like maybe it was time to move on. CNN back then was not known. It was this place we had to explain to people. Not a lot of people had cable. It's like, no, CNN. Okay, you know who Ted Turner is? Yeah, he has a TV station. Yeah, that's where I work. And it's amazing now that, of course, CNN is a household word. From CNN, I went into local news for a couple of years, and the local news environment is a lot different from working in network.
Totally.
I worked as a writer. I worked as a producer. I launched the network. It's called New York One. It was America's first all-news 24-hour TV station, and it's still on the air, or on cable, I should say. I was able to get this great job as an 11 o'clock producer at a brand new TV station in Tampa, Florida at WFTS in 1994. I was recruited by Bob Jordan and Steve Majors, who founded the station. The idea was they were a Fox station without any news, and we became the first ABC news affiliate in that market that was brand new, because the old ABC station became the CBS station, and the CBS station became the Fox station, and the NBC station didn't change, and of course all the viewers went there because who knows what's going on with these crazy stations switching around. It was a really confusing time, but we kicked butt, and we did some amazing things at WFTS. From there, I returned to New York. I had a family issue, and I also got married, met the love of my life, started working at CBS. I was there on 9/11. I went from CBS back down to Florida, but to Jacksonville, where I became a manager for the first time. I was the executive producer of newscasts. Yet another launch. This was a station that was a CBS station that quit the network and became independent. From there, I joined an NBC station here in Connecticut. That was 15 years ago. Wow. 15 years ago. And I got a job at the Today Show from that position. Now, the only problem with that was, and this was the best job in the whole world, I was the news producer. When, Savannah says, let's go to the news, I'd be the person producing that particular part of the newscast of the Today Show. They decided to make some budget cuts. And in 2007, that's 10 years ago this year, I got laid off with 700 other people. So that really stunk. I bounced around a little bit. I worked at Politico. I created a series for a Sunday talk show that bombed. It did not go on the air because it was awful, but we tried. And I returned to Florida for the third time as another executive producer at a rival station to the station I was at last. And from there I decided I really wanted to stay back in the New York area. So I moved back and I got a job at ABC. I was at ABC for 7 years. I was a field producer. I was a writer. I became an assignment editor when I got a staff job. And it was there that in 2013 that I came out as the first journalist in a TV newsroom to come out as transgender. And that's the end of my TV news career.
And you've had so many experiences that a lot of people couldn't never imagine or don't know what it's like.
It's incredible. I'm very lucky.
And you've had such a long career, so congratulations to that.
That means I'm old.
Yeah, I do. No, it does not mean you're old. How many years were you in news for?
33 years.
33 years. Wow. So you've got Brendan, who was in there for 28. We're gonna have Mike Deason coming on. He was in the business, like and there's not many people, like that's the thing I really want to get across. People like you are rare now. A lot of people leave the business far before they get to 10 or 20 years.
It burns out a lot of people. Yeah. Don't get me wrong.
So can I ask, why did you originally want to get into TV news?
So I grew up watching the news at dinner. We didn't sit around the dining room table. We sat in the family room with TV trays, and we watched Roger Grimsby and Bill Beutel do the news in New York. And Walter Cronkite and Dan Rather and Peter Jennings and the World News Tonight team before that. It was an amazing experience watching the world through this 30-minute program. And I really wanted to be part of it. So when I went to high school, my high school had a TV station. So I immediately joined both the TV club that is in front of the camera and the club that works behind the scenes, and was a host of a game show and did the news and directed and produced, and I just loved it. And I knew that's what I wanted to do. I will say, though, I was a child actor starting at age 4 until I was 17. And I think that's what helped me acclimate to the media and being in front of the camera and wanting to be a communicator. I did not want to be an actor for life, and that's why I quit. But it did give me the bug of wanting to be someone that does something with TV. I will say, I've had every ambition to be in front of the camera. Mm-hmm. And then I got to CNN, and I'm actually working at CNN. And I'm noticing that the people who are making all the decisions, all the power people, mostly white men, are handing out assignments to all the other people, and they're telling them what to do. And I'm thinking, well, I don't want to be somebody who just gets told what to do and read this and don't think. I want to be a reporter or a producer or an assignment editor. And that's why I worked behind the scenes for my entire career.
Yeah, and that's something I think a lot of people don't realize, is that there are many, many people that want to get into TV. Typically, they want to be a reporter. They want to be an anchor, but they don't know about all the other types of jobs or opportunities there are out there, or what everybody does.
And if you want to be in this business, you'd better learn all the jobs.
Oh, yeah. You can't just be pretty.
Well, I wish I could.
I guess you could.
I mean, you have a great set of pipes, all right? You have a great voice. But even a great voice isn't enough. You need to also be someone who can write, who can edit, who can shoot. Finding your way around the computer, being able to surf, being able to use all the different apps, being able to talk live without interruption, not losing your place in the sentence like I'm doing right now. It's very important that you be a master of all things.
Exactly. You can't just be good at one thing in this business now. You have to be really skilled and talented in many different areas.
A Renaissance woman almost, yeah.
Yeah.
Or my father used to always say, I'm a master of, wait, how was it?
Was it like a jack of all trades?
Jack of all trades, but a master of none.
Yeah, that's how a lot of us journalists feel too, is you kind of know a little bit about stuff, but you're not an expert on anything.
True enough. And when people ask us to be experts, I'm like, no, I just know enough to write a story.
All right. So in your mind, what was the best part about working in news?
Best part was being at the scene or in the newsroom when things happened. Yeah. Very often in the last 30 years, when something happened, I'm among the first maybe 100 people to know.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an amazing feat. I was in a newsroom for 9/11. I was in a newsroom for, I'm trying to think of events that would appeal to someone of a certain vintage, like yourself, a certain age.
Were you in news for the Challenger explosion, or?
That, believe it or not, Challenger was my senior year, and although I was working at CNN, it didn't happen while I was there. I was at my college radio station. I was the news director, and my future spouse was my reporter, and I was the anchor, and we were on the air for hours and hours. Mm-hmm. That experience, though, shaped my reaction or preparation for the Columbia disaster in 2003. I was at that station in Florida I talked about as a first-time manager, and I had everybody prepared. I had all these clips pulled. I had the anchor on the set. I wanted to make sure that we were prepared for anything that could possibly happen. And people are like, gosh, why are you so like gloom and doom over prepared? I said, because I've lived through this once.
And that's why you need people with experience in a newsroom, because you've experienced it before, you've experienced similar things, and you know what to do in that
I
sense.
agree. And we were on tap. We were right, ready, and on the air as soon as the word came down that the Columbia exploded. There are people who still to this day blame me for it because I was so prepared. But at the same time, I'm proud of the team I assembled all across the country right now. There are fantastic TV and social media people who got their start with some small part of my help. And I'm very proud of that because I feel like they're my students or my graduates, my people I mentored.
That's amazing. All right. On the flip side, what do you feel is the worst part about working in the news business?
This is going to sound really shallow, but it's the hours.
Yeah.
Almost every new job I ever got, I was the girl on weekends, or I was the overnights, or I was the weekend overnights. You have to accept that if you're going to work in a TV news business that runs 24/7, there are going to be Christmases and New Year's and weekends and overnights and late nights and early mornings that you and your friends, may not agree on, but that's your job. Your job is to be in the newsroom. I can't tell you how many New Year's I've watched on a TV set or, from a window in New York watching the ball drop. Oh, there it is. It's pretty lonely. I can't tell you how many times we've had to move either Thanksgiving or Christmas or take a different event and move it because our family wasn't able to celebrate it with everyone. So that's what being in the TV news business is like. For me, it wasn't a problem because my dad was a cop. My mom was a nurse. We were just used to having to work, crazy shifts. So I'm acclimated to it, but it sucked.
Yeah, it can't. Or remember the holiday lottery?
At one place I worked, we had a system where we had all the dates and we all went to a Google document, and our job was to pick a date with your initials next to it before anyone else did.
Oh, jeez.
That's crazy.
That had to, how cutthroat was that thing?
Yeah, it's like you're trying to block somebody, it's nuts. But I actually had somebody take away my holiday once because somebody new was hired, and they were like, well, we want to go to the new guy, so sorry.
Wow, but usually it's the other way around too. The new guy gets
That's what I said.
Yeah, the new guy gets the worst holiday offer, whatever.
But that's the worst thing about TV news. Honestly, it's the hours. And if you go in expecting you're going to have a 9-to-5 job, you're crazy. You're not going to have
Yeah, you clearly don't know what you're getting into.
Sorry.
Well, what would you like the world to know about TV news that might not be evident on the surface?
I think that what I want the world to know is that the media is not your friend. The very nice people who work at WFTS and all the TV stations and radio stations and all the internet sites all across the country, they're all probably good people. They're all nice people. A lot of them are my friends, but they're not there to be your friend. They have a job to do. They have a story to tell. Sometimes that story is dictated from above. Sometimes it's something they came up with on their own. But they are not interested in telling your story necessarily unless it's going to be something that they, in the end, control. Remember, it's not a priesthood. This isn't some kind of, charity. They're earning money. They're getting paid. And the companies they work for are selling advertising dollars. So they want stories that people will want to see. And they want stories that people will not necessarily like, but will want to share. A lot of stories are negative. There's a lot of bad news out there. And it's because, unfortunately, every time the mainstream media does a happy, good news story, people go, oh, that's nice. But it doesn't get the clicks or the shares or the ratings that negative news does. Oh, my daughter's giving me a thumbs up saying, yeah.
Oh.
So here's the deal. If the media is not your friend, what do you do? What I want the world to know is there are people like me and other people like yourself who are ex-TV people who can help those folks guide themselves. Make sure you don't get conned. Make sure you don't get roped into an interview that will end up putting egg on your face. So don't talk to someone who's going to end up using you and possibly editing your words to something you don't want. It's a really delicate dance of trust. I think most journalists are fair and honest, but not all are. Just like in every industry, there's rotten apples.
Yeah.
So
Do you feel that some of the relationships developed with me, among media relations, do you feel like some of them might not be authentic as maybe the one person might think, or
You mean relationships between the co-anchors?
or more between, like, say, like you were saying, like someone who's a newsmaker and someone who works in the news industry?
I'm not really sure how to answer that.
Like, 'cause you know how I'm sure as a producer and assignment, you developed relationships with people in the past that
Absolutely.
you would ask for interviews. Do you feel like maybe just the inherent nature of the job maybe
Yeah, I think
makes
that
those
we all
relationships more
use each other
authentic?
in some way or another.
Mhm.
However, the one thing I never was a public relations person.
Mhm.
And while I would definitely love to do public relations for a nonprofit or for a charity or for someone that is trying to change the world, I could never be one of those PR ladies who call you up and say, my product is the best
Yeah.
product and you have to do a story about it. And I'm like, no. So those people, I think we all use each other in that way. And I think that when it comes to like politics and government, a lot of us are complicit in terms of getting certain messages out because we know it's a trade-off situation. We know that the senator wants to be complimented for his big bill that does nothing but looks good to the voters, but we want him to answer the question of why are dog catchers getting fired. All right. So we're going to do a small mention of his bill, but we're going to really hit him on the questions of what's about this dog catcher. See what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
there's that relationship where you both sort of shake hands and wink and have to realize that neither one of us are going to tell the absolute truth. I'm not going to tell him I'm really only interested in the dog catchers, and he's not going to tell me the truth about dog catchers. He's going to tell me some spin.
Yeah, because
That's why you never
you're in
listen
a
to one
situation where
source.
you either get the interview or you don't.
Well, that's just it. And you never rely on one source.
No.
Even when you see those stories that say an anonymous source says da 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 da, that's something that a journalist has checked with some other person to make sure that this source is credible and make sure that we're not getting an egg on our face.
Very true. And that's really good insight from someone, again, who's worked in many newsrooms, network level and local level.
I agree.
And
Thank you.
I know you mentioned you've been part of a lot of big stories. Is there one story in particular that just had a really big impact on you?
I'm going to tell it in 3 parts, but it's going to be
Okay.
simple. 9/11 should be that story because
Mhm.
when the assignment editor said that there was a plane that hit the World Trade Center, I typed up something quick and ran into the control room, and we went on the air first and had these live pictures that just blew me away. And I was in New York for days. And there's the world before 9/11 and the world after. So as far as our world, that story affected me profoundly and the most. And I found out the next day one of my friends had died.
Oh.
I found out by reading it in the paper. Nothing worse. The second story should be a month after 9/11, well, 2 months, November, so 3 months, September, October, November. A plane crashed in New York City. And I was more scared that day than I was on 9/11 because I thought it was 9/11 all over again. And I wasn't alone. And we were frightened out of our minds. I actually held the hand of another woman in the newsroom as we were working because we were both so frightened. I've never done anything like that in my life. And we were crying our eyes out. The story that is most impactful to me, I was on my way home from ABC News. I live in Connecticut. I work in New York. We got a call that there were shots fired in Newtown, Connecticut. My boss, knowing I was on my way home, said, "Are you going to go past Newtown?" I said, "Yeah, I go past it. I'm almost there." She said, "Quick, you need to divert. You need to go there. You're going to be our first person on the scene, our eyes and ears. Don't tell anyone this, but we're hearing that children have been killed." I was the first ABC News person on the scene, and I got to the firehouse where moms and dads were coming out and learning that their children had been massacred. And I know my job was to try and get those moms and dads to talk to us.
Mhm.
But I'll be very honest, I could not.
No.
I stood there and one mom's eyes met mine. And I have a first grader. He's now in 6th grade, but he was the same age as her child. And I could just see in her eyes the pain she felt. And I just mouthed the words, "I'm sorry." And that was all I could do. And I let them pass. There were other vultures and let them get them. I'm sure we got them later. Maybe it's a sign of what kind of journalist I am, but I think it's more of a sign of what kind of human being I
What kind of
was.
person you are, yeah.
So I was able to report what I saw, but I did not get that interview. And I'm not sorry I didn't.
You're not sorry you didn't know.
No.
And I think lots of people have probably been in similar situations and had to make a choice whether you're going to do it or not. So, and I think it's a very individual choice too.
It is. And also it's about timing. It
Yeah.
just wasn't the right time. I mean, they just found out.
Yeah. Well, and you probably saw that article that somebody wrote, what was it, like a month ago, about was it the shooting in Texas with all the journalists descending upon that tiny town?
And how they acted. Yeah, I know. We're all faced at certain points in our lives with the decision to act or report. Our job is to report, but our duty to our fellow man and woman is to be a human being. So I'm not going to fault anyone on that. I can only say that until you're in their shoes, don't assume that you know the right answer. I know everyone has an idea of what they would say, but until it actually happens to you, you may not really know.
Exactly. Well, on a little bit of a lighter note, the viral story, it's what everyone kind of wants. Like if you're trying to get your message out there, if you're trying to make a name for yourself, you've probably seen many viral stories go viral. What attributes do you feel these stories tend to have? The
biggest clue to something being viral is if someone else will share it. If you feel, and this is what journalism is today, journalism is not, I turn on the news and I watch someone tell me what happened in the world today. Journalism is, I know a story, I want you to know about it. I want to be the one who shares it. That's the first rule. If it's something that you want to share with someone else, that has a good possibility of going viral. A lot of times it's funny. A lot of times it's something we're making fun of someone else's misfortune. Too often it's cats. You have a cat. I have a cat.
Oh, I totally do.
Cats. But the real essence of a viral video in terms of the news business goes is, does it show something that no other person was able to get? There was the woman who was in the car when the police officer, a white police officer in a traffic stop, shot and killed her black partner. And she went Facebook Live with it. And she described the whole thing as it happened. Viral is about being on the spot, being a witness. It's not necessarily something that you have to witness as it happens. There are things that, like the train crash in Washington State, people on the highway were taking pictures with their cameras and their phones. And that's viral video because people want to see something from right after the wreckage, you know? Too often it's tragic. It's not always happy, funny news. But, let's face it, everybody loves a good cat video.
They do. Or now it's like the people fighting at Walmart cell phone video. I don't know, things like, it's crazy.
Well, here's the thing you need to remember. There are cameras everywhere.
Yeah.
No matter where you go, you're likely to be videotaped or, videotaped. Listen how old I am. You're likely to be screen capped. And you should be aware that anything you do or say can end up being on the internet.
Lesson learned. Everybody's got a phone now, so you can't, gone are the days where you could do things and go under the radar.
Anonymous doesn't work anymore. No.
Not at all. Well, that's a really good answer. Now, for the folks who are watching who are, media, who are in media relations or PR, if you were going to come up with some sort of guidebook for like best practices they could do to best develop relationships with media outlets, what kind of stuff would be in this guide if you were to
buy us lunch? No.
Hey, that's actually a really good tip. Power tip there.
The media people love getting food. They love getting treats. They love getting tchotchkes and stuff. But I've never seen it influence a story. I've never seen us do a story because we got food or presents or whatever else. That kind of stuff really actually bugs me because I think that there's an expectation that, hey, I sent you food, do a story about us. So what I would suggest is, instead of buying people food, which, I do like eating, but instead of that, find out how the newsroom works. Make an appointment, take a tour, come on over, take us to your place. Let's meet. Let's find out. I mean, we can have lunch outside and split it, whatever, at a restaurant, but let's find out about each other and let's find out what each other's needs are. We're human beings. We're people. We eat, but we don't want to be bought, and we don't want to be the appearance of being bought. So,
and that's actually against the rules in many newsrooms too.
It should be the rule in all newsrooms, but it varies from place to place.
It does.
I think those rules are really important. And if you think those rules are onerous, then you should re-examine why you're in the business. It's not to get free stuff. I would love it if every journalist had that idea, but most people like getting free stuff. No, I'll give you an example. I'm in a union, all right? I'm in the Writers Guild of America. And every year at this time, because it's holiday time, I get screenplays. This is the screenplay for The Post, which is coming out tomorrow. And over here in a pile that I don't have ready to hand you is the DVD for The Post. I've got the movie right here. The point being that that's a perk, all right? But it's a union perk. It's not because I work in the TV news business, which I don't. It's because I still work in a projected office that is part of the union. So those kind of perks are part of the business. It's great. I got to meet presidents. I've met celebrities. I met Barack Obama. I mean, who else gets to say stuff like that?
No.
Those are the great things. I've also worked lots of freaking overnights that, most people would enjoy sleeping.
So it really balances out there for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say no if someone says, would you interview Beyonce? Well, I'm not sure. I might be busy. That kind of stuff is the kind of stuff that we all live for. But at the same time, I've met lots of common, everyday folks. I'll never forget a dad I interviewed in 1994. His wife disappeared right before Christmas. And he had his 2 little kids by the Christmas tree, and they talked to the camera about, Mommy, if you're out there, please come home.
Wow.
And I never found out. I mean, did she ever come home? Did she die? No body was ever found. She just vanished. And that's a life story that I'll never forget because of my job that I would never have known. I've never known except by telling that story.
Wow. And I can't believe he actually wanted to talk. I guess she was missing. So sometimes, you've seen missing families are maybe more willing to share their story just because they want to find their love. They want to get the word out.
In this case, I don't think he thought she left.
No.
I think he thought she was abducted or something.
Oh my gosh.
She's a cat, by the way.
Yes, she is. Yes, I do have a cat. She might make some appearances in the background. We'll see.
If my children my oldest son just left for work, so that's 3 of them. And you have all 3 now on the video.
And you know what, people? This is YouTube. This is the new media, right? Well, even in the past few weeks, I've had a lot of people reach out who want to get into the news business. They want to be a reporter. They want to work in news. What kind of advice do you have for someone that wants to break into the business now?
I usually joke by saying, don't, but that's not true. As long as you're prepared for the business being what it is now is not what it's going to be in a year, 5 years, 10 years, I still think it's a great way to earn a living. You need to know the hours. Okay, let's get that out of the way. Second, the pay sucks.
Yeah, especially
as the hours are, the pay is worse.
Yeah, especially in your first few jobs too, for most people.
And I was very lucky. I started in New York. I worked in New York for years before I moved to where did I go? Florida. Most jobs in New York pay pretty well, but not television. Television is basic bottom line. You better have another job, wait tables, do something. If you're working in a smaller market, Missouri or Iowa or Idaho or another one of the flyover states as people call them, you're going to earn really bottom dollar, like next to nothing. This is not a business to get rich in, and a lot of people expect that those multi-million-dollar salaries like Matt Lauer had are commonplace, but they're not. And as you probably know, women get paid a lot less than men do still. We had that woman who's on the celebrity media show who just quit because she found out when they were trying to renew her contract, she was making millions less than her male co-host.
Wow. So
the 3 things, your schedule, your pay, the gender gap. When I came out, my boss said to me, and in front of everyone, "This is great news. Now I can pay you 70 cents on the dollar."
But wait, did he actually say that?
Well, I wouldn't lie to you.
Oh
yes.
My gosh. Like, who says that? Oh my God.
Who says that? A sexist. Who thinks he's funny. Because basically all the people in the newsroom, I mean, not all, but I'd say 70% of the people who work in the newsroom are women, whereas all the big suits and the big bosses around the table are all white guys.
Wow. I can't believe someone would actually say that and not expect to get taken to HR or something. You can't.
Oh, I wish I could have. Oh, I would have loved that. Would have solved all my problems. If I took him to HR, I would have solved all my problems.
Oh, boy.
But, he tossed it off as a joke. And what are you going to do? You got to have a thick skin.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, you do need a thick skin in this business.
But that's the 4th thing. Really, you do. You do need a thick skin. And you need to be able to realize that if you're on TV, if you're in front of the camera, people are going to hate you.
Pretty much everybody hates TV news anyways. So.
Well, they're going to judge you. They're going to decide, I don't like her hair. I don't like her makeup. What is she wearing that for? you wore that yesterday or something like that, and it's very judgmental.
It's like, well, why don't you try it,
I would hope not
no,
most people should not.
no, probably not. Well, can you kind of walk us through how you ended up exiting the business?
Yeah, so I was just talking about that place. My coming out was very well received. I got a round of applause. I got flowers from the head of the network. I got amazing emails and messages of support. Everything was going very well for me. My kids accepted me. My spouse and I had come to terms with the situation. And then the New York Post decided to do a story about me. And I was afraid this was going to happen, that this would make news, because up until me, there hadn't been a journalist in TV news who came out as trans. And the Post saw an opportunity to make fun of me, make fun of Disney. They made it seem like I just walked in one day and demanded people call me Dawn. And I wore a little black dress. And you know what? It was months of preparation for that day. The company actually had meetings with every employee I interacted with and making sure that they understood what was going on and that they were cool with it. So there was no surprise. But as the headlines from the Post continued after that first one, as they started making more stories about me than about Diane Sawyer, as I found out in some files I obtained, the bookkeepers, the money counters, they were worried, and they noticed that I was attracting a lot of negative publicity about ABC. And so suddenly I was being watched. If I was a couple of minutes late, if I had a time to go to the restroom, if I said something, I think everyone said something at the office that you're probably not supposed to say. If someone wrote it down and you got confronted with it, you'd be like, oh my God, I can't believe someone wrote that down and that I said it. So those kind of things. And it wasn't about my gender, of course not. It wasn't about my transition, of course not, because that would be illegal. So I was fired. I tried to kill myself. I ended up at Bellevue. I missed the meeting in which I was going to get fired because I was so afraid. And, I got better. I got some help. And I got a lawyer, and we negotiated a very nice settlement, which I can't disclose, but let's just say that ABC and I came to terms so that I could support my family. And I was never told I can't return. Actually, I have every right to reapply should I wish to have a position at ABC. Not right now.
It's not at the top of your list, huh?
It's not because of anything anyone did. Most of the people there are really great people. I was really disappointed on how they handled the exit. But, the bad part wasn't ABC. It was after I lost my job, it became headlines again. Dawn Ennis got a pink slip to go with her pink slip. My name was basically dragged through the mud, and I couldn't find a job. I had news directors tell friends of mine when I asked for their help, I don't want her drama in my newsroom. I had another national correspondent who's still at NBC write an email that he was so over me. He was so tired of the word drama came back. And he sent that to me instead of sending it to who he's going to send it to.
Oh, no.
You never do that? You send an email and you type it the wrong person?
Oh, geez.
So.
And you got the message about you. Oh my gosh.
It's because I asked him for his support. I didn't ask him for an endorsement or for a recommendation or a referral. I asked him, would you please just wish me luck? I have an interview at NBC today. And that was the response I got. So I reached back to him and said, I got my message. Thank you. I got the message you want me to know. All right.
Wow. Do you have any words of encouragement for people that might be facing this type of situation? We all know, we all have friends, we all have ex-colleagues who are fired in ways that we might not feel are justified or feel are kind of unfair. Do you have any encouragement or tips or advice for?
Well, first, let me say I don't have any bad words for the people who did not want to be my referral after that. Mm-hmm. They didn't want to connect with my name. And I understand that. I get why. I get that for them, it was a career ender. If they were connected with me, because my career ended. Know who your people on your reference list are. Really know them. there's nothing worse than giving someone a reference and then finding out they stabbed you in the back afterwards, because that's not going to help you. The other thing would be, if you're in a position where you do leave in disgrace or you leave with your tail between your legs, it's not likely you're going to jump from one ship to another. It's more likely you're going to jump from ship to land. It's probably best that you look at a changing careers. There are other things you can do. And I'm not saying the television news business is finite. I mean, you can get back into it. It's just that right now might not be the best time. So explore those skills you have and what can be translatable.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that with people. I mean, we all personally know people that have been fired or laid off, and it's definitely
layoffs are the worst, because
it's not an easy
really
thing to go through.
What did they pick her? Did they pick her because she sucks, or did they pick her just because she's a number, or she's old, or in my case at NBC? Look, I had a family to support, and it probably cost NBC more money to pay my insurance than it did for them to replace me with a freelancer, which is what they did.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that I learned from working at a network level is how many freelancers networks have versus local stations. Local stations don't really do a lot of freelancers, but
not most of them, but they do.
Common.
You know what they do? A lot of them use freelancers in a different way. NBC has a company they set up just for freelancers. It's called Youre. I don't know if it still exists, but the idea being that you didn't work for NBC, you worked for Youre. So the NBC wasn't responsible for you being not staffed, not benefits, all that stuff. It's sort of a little shady, but people got work, so nobody complained.
Yeah, and that's kind of just how it works too. So it's something.
But you want to work, right?
Yeah,
you want to get into the business.
Work. You do. Well, all right. And can you tell people, it's been a few years since you exited TV news. What have you been up to since then?
Wow, let's see. Oh boy, the light is from the sun. It's the sun. Oh my God. I'm trying to position this based on the time of day we're at and where I decided to sit, which was silly. I don't have a backyard like Brendan does. It's beautiful in summery. It's Connecticut and it's cold. In February of this year, I was invited to be a guest like on your show, on someone else's show. And the show is on YouTube. And they asked me, would you be the guest? And I said, yeah, I'll be the guest. And then people who worked at the TV studio said, gee, you really seem to have a knack for this. Would you like to have your own show? Yeah, sure. It's no pay. It's completely my own vehicle. I write, produce, host, edit, and they put it on YouTube. It's the most successful show they have on West Hartford Community TV on YouTube that's hosted. You know, if they show the town meeting or the graduation or something or parade, that gets more clicks. But as far as individually hosted shows, my show is doing gangbusters, and I'm really proud of it. It's called Rise Up with Dawn Ennis, and it appears monthly. We did the last show last month on location. I still write. Since I lost my television news career, I became an online journalist. I make videos. I have my own little company that makes videos and PowerPoints and does press releases and represents people for media. Someone to be a go-between. I call that Anybody. And I spell it with my name, E-N-N-I, buddy. Why hire anybody when you can hire anybody? Okay?
Hey, it's a good pun.
And then I'm the queen of puns. And then last but not least, I just accepted a job this month because it's been 6 months since I had a steady gig. I am now a front desk associate, or you might call it a receptionist, at Massage Envy. Now, that is not the job or career I envisioned. I had an ambition for. I did customer service when I was in college. I went in there to complain about an article in BuzzFeed that I was worried that was going to happen at this franchise, that BuzzFeed said that women all across the country were complaining about how they were treated by the massage therapists. And the manager there assured me that this wasn't happening. She showed me what steps they take to assure me that everything is on the up and up and that this was not the kind of thing that would happen at this franchise. So she saved her membership, and I also got a job. And I've been working there now. I'm still in training. 8 hours on my feet at age 53 is not easy. Dealing with all the money and the computer stuff is not easy. But I'm happy to support my kids. That's what it's about. I have 3 children. I'm a widow. And this is a way of me supporting them. So whatever I have to do.
Exactly. And I think that's anyone with a good work ethic. You would do anything to put food on the table and to pay your bills. That's just
I applied for 400 jobs.
Yeah.
I applied for 400 jobs. I had 3 interviews. And almost always it was Google that did me in, because when you Google my name, DAWNENNIS, the first hit that comes up is ABC News fired Dawn Ennis.
Well, and if you don't mind me asking, like, where can people find you online if they want to watch the Rise Up show, or if they want to?
I don't mind you asking at all. I have a blog. I've been blogging for about 8-9 years. Life After Dawn, DAWN.com. A lot of people said I don't usually get into this, but the people who I worked with at WFTS knew me as Don, D-O-N. And I changed my name to Dawn for 2 reasons. My mother said that was the name she picked for me when she was sure I was going to be a girl. And also, Dawn sounds a lot like Dawn. And if people mistakenly call me Don, it's no big deal. It sounds the same. But I call it Life After Dawn because it's life for me after I finally came out as myself. So at that website, I have links to my show. I have links to stories I've written. And I'm also on Medium. And if you Google me, just click the news tab, not the regular tab, and you'll find my work.
And I will make sure to link all of that below. So for all of you watching, if you'd like to find Dawn, just check out the description box. I'm going to put all of Dawn's social media
and Instagram,
down there.
all those things. Life After Dawn.
Wonderful. Well, again, thank you so much for doing this. And talking about social media, what's your favorite platform?
Well, I'm old, so I'd use Facebook. I love when Brendan said that. And by the way, I cracked up when he talked about Johnny Carson. I don't know if you got that joke, but it was just so funny about dropping names. Facebook is my primary outlet, but Twitter is very important. And I've joined Snapchat because of my kids. I'm not really as proficient at Instagram as I should. I love it because it's mostly happy stuff. And there must be more stuff out there that I'm still learning about.
Yeah, and there's going to be something, there's going to be something on the horizon. We never would have thought Snapchat would have been a thing, or YouTube, or whatever.
Well, I was on Vine. I had a whole bunch of Vines, and poof, it went away. My daughter said it's coming back.
Vine away. All right. Well, we need to talk. The TV business in general is kind of going through an interesting time. What do you feel like TV stations can do to adapt in this whole landscape of the new media?
The best way to adapt is to have people who are doing new media in your newsroom. And that means if your people in the newsroom aren't doing new media, then train them or get new people. You'd be surprised at how many people who work in newsrooms, as Brendan McLaughlin said, they have either a very, phony public persona because they have to make sure that they don't get fired.
And they're afraid. They don't want to do anything that would jeopardize.
Well, they can't risk losing their career, right? Like coming out as transgender. So I would say that the thing that the media station should do and the outlet should do is stop making it someone's job to be the media, to be the social media person, and make everybody the social media person. Everybody tweets. Everybody gets involved. Everybody does something. I don't think, as Brendan and other people have said, it's not going to work just to try and change up a newscast. Something has to completely be reinvented right now. And there's something called Newsy right now, and there's other news outlets that are online on Twitter and other outlets. So I know that there are attempts to remake how we tell our news stories, but it really has to be sort of a generational, evolutional formula that basically springs up on its own. Because right now, I think old farts like me doing the new media, it's sort of like, that old friend of yours who says like, hey, that's groovy. I mean, somebody get him a message that it's not 1970 anymore, right? So when older people try to use new hip phrases, or they, what was the movie where a white woman was telling a black woman all the black phrases just recently? I can't remember.
No, are you kidding me?
Yeah, but it's like, it was just very funny because it's like, don't try to use the lingo. Just stay in your lane. All right, stay in your lane. But
that could be the new
lane to drive it.
Yeah, stay in your lane. Well, and I was even thinking about this too. A lot of people are like, you kind of wonder why aren't more TV people on YouTube, and it's because they're not allowed to have a channel,
or they're not allowed to express their views,
and they can't. So a lot of TV news people might be interested in doing a YouTube channel, but their contract doesn't allow it, which kind of puts it in a weird situation because they can't use their own personal brand to build anything. It's very difficult for them because
or
they
it's
don't
it's
own
very
our stuff.
tailored. The management and the creative consultants are steering it a certain way so as to make it, pablum.
And I feel like it's kind of a shame because a lot of these TV people have a lot to offer platforms like YouTube, but
I agree.
they know that they can't do a channel because it would violate their contract, or if they did try to build something, the station would claim ownership of it. So it's not
True, it wouldn't be theirs anymore.
No. So if they leave or like want to do something on their own, they can't. Like there would be
Right.
some legal ramifications. So it's a bit of it's a tricky, I don't know. I feel like that's just a part of the talent contracts. That's that does not put that in favor of the employee at all.
Well, it's not going to work if it continues the way it is.
No.
It has to be changed. The model has to be changed.
Exactly. Well, Dawn, all really good thoughts and such insight from you. Thank you so much. And I'm going to give you the opportunity now to ask the question of the day to viewers. You can ask people watching anything you want. What is it?
Jennifer, if I had to think of one question I would ask the public at large and all your viewers, I'd say, tell me why you watch news. What do you want to get out of it? My answer, honestly, is what did I miss? What I miss. And I'm interested to know what other people think. Hopefully they'll answer the question, because that is the score that news people want. They want to know, how can I get people to watch? Well, here's your chance to tell them. Tell them what you watch the news for.
Well, thank you very much. So, folks, if you're watching, feel free to answer Dawn's question in the comments. What gets you to watch the news? Why would you watch the news? So, Dawn, thank you so much for joining me. And if you are a fellow XTV newser, feel free to hit me up on Twitter at XTVProducer. I'd love to talk to you as well and feature you here on the show. Dawn, really appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Jennifer. It was a pleasure.
You too.